Chapter 29. If Imogen had thought they were moving slowly before, it was nothing compared to their current pace. It hurt her to watch Fortune, such an active and athletic horse, struggle as he was to stay upright. His legs were weak and his nose would have touched the ground if Gabe didn't support him with the lead rope. It was worrying. Luckily, he was strong and apparently tough. Finally, they were approaching home. The stone pillars on either side of the gravel drive could not have been more inviting to her tired and cold eyes. It seemed she wasn't the only one, as all three horses perked up and dug deep for energy as they moved toward home. Her aunt waved to them from the porch, her beat-up old truck with the plow in the driveway. Imogen had never loved her more as they turned onto the cleared surface. If she didn't slug through more snow this year, she'd be happy. One adventure was quite enough. Joe followed them to the paddocks. Gabe and Imogen wasted no time dismounting, or at least Gabe didn't. Imogen was bone-tired and sore from all the hours in the saddle. Her leg caught on the back of the cantle, and she had to lean her belly on the saddle in order to get clear. She was too exhausted to be embarrassed as she slid down the horse using his body for support. Gabe tied Rowdy to the post. "Imogen, can you untack the boys with Joe and then come help me with Fortune? I want to get started right away." Her gut clenched at the tone of his voice. He was worried. "Of course, I'll be there as soon as I can." Imogen began to loosen Dexter's cinch and started removing his saddle and blanket, while Joe opened the small shed he used as a tack room and anchored the door open so they could carry the heavy Western saddles inside with ease. As Joe came out, she brought a bucket of grooming brushes so they could wipe down the horses and pick out their hooves. They worked swiftly and wordlessly in unspoken agreement. Finally, when they led the horses into the paddock to romp and relax, Joe turned to her niece. "Honey, I'm glad you made it back safe. We'll talk about everything later. For now, I'll finish up these nice boys and make sure they have food and water. You go help your boys." Imogen nodded, gave her aunt a quick, tight hug, and rushed over to the next field where Gabe had tied Fortune to the safety ring inside of his shed, away from the weather. Imogen didn't know what half the items were that Gabe had spread out in a sterile tray. His hands were gloved, and he was trying to clip the hair around the wound, but Fortune kept moving away. "I don't want to sedate him. He's already too exhausted. Can you pull out some feed and distract him for me?" Imogen raced to the shed to grab a bucket, coming back with a mix of alfalfa and Timothy hay pellets for him. Despite his lethargy, he was clearly uncomfortable with a veterinarian around the wound. "Hey, boy, look what I have." Fortune nickered softly and tried to grab the bucket, making her laugh. Noted, he will perk up for food. Glad to see a little more life in him, she grabbed a handful and let him eat from her palm. It wouldn't be good for him to eat too much, too quickly, and cause stomach upset. With her as a happy distraction, Gabe made quick work of the wound, stitching it up and applying an antibiotic ointment. "There," he said as he took off his gloves. "I've already started fluids in the IV." He gestured to the line coming out of the horse's neck. "He'll need to stay where he is as long as possible. The more fluids, the better. When the IV is finished, we'll feed him slowly and check on him every hour." "Do you think he's going to be okay?" Imogen asked, afraid of the answer. Horses were so strong, yet surprisingly breakable. "As a veterinarian, I can only say time will tell. I'm glad we found him when we did." Imogen looked at him with wide eyes. "As your boyfriend, I'll say he's strong and made it back home, so he's got a good chance." Imogen's eyes welled up in relief. "Come here." He gestured to her, inviting her in for a bone-crushing hug. Imogen erupted into sobs, and Gabe held her as she let it all go. Memories of the kiss, the hard ride in a blizzard, Fortune's escape, and the relief of finding him. She'd held it all in while it mattered so she could function. Now that she was home, with her horse in hand, she could let down her guard and feel everything she'd been bottling up. Gabe held her, stroking her back and whispering, "It's okay, he's fine, you're fine. I've got you." Finally, her sobs subsided and she relaxed. Wiping her eyes, she stepped back. I know you're not perfect, Gabe, but you're perfect for me. Thank you for risking yourself and your horses to help me find him. It was my fault he got out. I couldn't be the reason you lost him, Jersey. I'd do anything for you. He really would, Imogen knew. He may be shy when it came to opening up to her, but he showed her through actions every day how much he loved her. Braving a blizzard without a thought was a big move and went a long way to prove his words from last night. It's not your fault, Gabe. We knew Fortune would probably get out at some point. Gabe nipped in to kiss her softly and slowly. Thank you for trying to make me feel better. But it won't help. I know that this situation was my fault. I should never have let Lopez stay here, and never for so long. It was unintentionally disrespectful to you. This is just karma coming back around. Karma? Listen, Gabe, you need to relax a bit. That kiss, that was wrong. But you didn't kiss her. She kissed you, right? He nodded. I never had a problem with her staying here. I trust you. What I think we have to work on is not telling each other things. Maybe if I'd known the situation, I could have helped. Now, Gabe smirked. I'm not used to asking anyone for help. Imogen laughed. I wasn't either. But now look at me. I've learned that it's not a weakness, especially when you have friends and family that want to help. It doesn't make you less. How did you get so smart? Well, obviously, I was always smart. You just didn't notice until now. I won't make that mistake again. He smiled. How did he get so lucky? Imogen knew he wasn't talking about underestimating her, but was instead referring to the whole situation with Anita. She believed him. He was a good man who was struggling with demons in his past. As long as he communicated and shared with her, they would be okay. She felt that in her bones. Imogen looked at Fortune, who was resting comfortably with a full belly, familiar surroundings, and a new, intact blanket sheltering him. Thank you for being someone I can count on, Gabe. You've been so good to us. Why don't I help you fix this gate before we call this adventure done? Gabe eyed her with disbelief. Since when do you know how to fix a gate? She shrugged. I don't, but it's time I learn. Besides, as soon as I find the right property, I'll be building quite a few fences and installing gates. Why not start now? Thinking ahead. I like it. You'll be a country girl soon if you're not careful. Careful? I'm counting on it, mister. With a laugh, Imogen followed Gabe to the tool shed so they could get started.